Welcome to WagerTalk's last call. Round of 32 starts in less than an hour and a half or so. We've got the NIT going as well. So if you have a question regarding either tournament for one of our handicappers, please drop it in the chat. This show is all about your participation. We are live on X, TikTok, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. So if you have a question, drop it in your perspective chat and we will get to you guys. First up, I'm going to go straight to him because I know he is a busy man this time of year. Art DeCesar from the Westgate Superbook here to give us a look behind the counter. Good morning, Art. How has the Westgate been? I am having serious FOMO. I mean, kind of. I love being at the Westgate during March Madness, but my liver is very happy I decided to stay home this year.
We obviously miss you. You know, the clubhouse is not the same without you here. You know, you walk by, you see the clubhouse, you're like, where's KIV? Oh, she's not in there. But no, it's been great. You know, this is obviously one of the best times of the year in Vegas, one of the best, weekends, first couple of days, especially Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday is amazing. The atmosphere is great. So, we live for this. This is one of our best, weekends and best couple of days.
Well, we know how busy you are, so we're going to just rattle off. There are 8 games today. And there are 8 games tomorrow. So let me hear what you've got so far for today's slate. If you want to run through all of them, so be it. If you've got some sharp action, we'd love to hear it. If you've got any early stuff for Sunday, since you're not going to be joining us tomorrow, we'd love that as well.
Really nothing for Sunday yet. So let's just kind of focus on today. We'll start from the top. The opening game, McNeese and Purdue. We'll need McNeese. We've seen good Purdue money come in. Purdue 6, Purdue 6.5. So that's McNeese is going to be a pretty early need for us. Saw Arkansas money, plus 7.5, plus 7. We got to 6.5. We ticked back up to 7. So we'll need St. John's right now because people are taking the Razorbacks. Interesting. Normally they take the money line on a spot like that too, but they have not. They've really only taken the points in that spot. Then you're going to move to, I believe Creighton Auburn is next. A lot of Creighton money. This is where they did sprinkle a little bit on the money line. They took Creighton at 10. They took Creighton at 9. We're now to 8.5. We had a big house player also take Creighton at 8.5. So we're going to need Auburn really badly in that game. UCLA, Tennessee. This is a game that's kind of seen pretty good split action. Probably a little bit more money on Tennessee at minus 4.5. Totals really dropped on this game. We opened 133. We're now sitting 130 on that total. So a pretty good move there to the under. Gonzaga and Houston, pretty split action. We've been 5 all day, and then we did take a sharp bet this morning at 5 on Gonzaga. Only moved half a point on it. Market didn't really blow up on it, so went to 4.5 on the game. Drake and Texas Tech, one of our best house players, significant 5-figure bet on the under 127. We're now sitting 125.5 on that game. We're the lowest on the market on that total because of the big house bet. It's not just the sharps that can move it. Obviously, this is such a public tournament. Public money can move certain numbers, and we felt we wanted to move down on that total. BYU and Wisconsin, really good split action, -1 on Wisconsin. Feel like the total will get bet by the public on this high total, 155, 155.5. Feels like a public over. Michigan, Alabama, public money on Michigan +3. Over money from that same house player, over 140.5. We're now 142.5. And like I said, it's a significant 5-figure bet on a total like that. Because the totals don't normally see action like that, we feel sometimes we need to power move those a little bit.
Talk about that really quick, Art, and how that should be for our audience, right? Like, hey, guys, if you're already wanting to bet the opposite side, go on your favorite odds screen, I like Odds Logic, and see that the Westgate has an advantageous number. That's essentially what you're doing, is saying, come on in, we'd love some of that opposite money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and listen, we're going to be a point, maybe 1.5 points higher on a couple of these totals. I know we are that way on the Texas Tech game, on that under, and I believe we are in the Michigan game as well. And it's one of those things where, we want to sell back a little bit because eventually there will be some people who are going to come clean the boards up and nibble back and buy back on those. And, you always want to remember too, not on totals, but on sides, we always are offering those 109s as well. So you always want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, minus 109, saving you 1 cent on every dollar you bet. So if you are a dime better, you can do the math. Art to Caesar at Art Dice 21. Anything else you'd like to leave our audience with? Possibly a best bet for today?
I can leave you a best bet. And I also just touch on those two NIT games. They've been betting the NIT like overs like crazy. Like that Bradley game was 153, I believe we're 155 and a half now. So keep your eye on NIT totals. They've been bet over like crazy. Obviously the NCAA tournament games get bet over, but that's public. The Sharps have been really keying in on early numbers in the NIT games and betting them up, 2, 3, maybe even 3.5 points. And if you're looking for a best bet, and St. Mary's killed me and Montana killed me, they've been kind of tough beats. But I'm going to roll with A&M today. I like A&M -3. Don't love what I've seen out of that Michigan team. They're a little sloppy, and I think Buzz Williams and his boys will take care of business. I'm laying 3 with A&M.
Yeah, that Montana beat, Art, was rough. Rough. At least I had some of the first half here on that show. Thank you, Art to Caesar. You are the best. You can catch Art over at the Westgate Superbook. I don't know if the man gets a day off. He also joins us here on Last Call, as well as with the Prez on Wager Talk today. Again, if you guys are in Vegas, head over to the Westgate Superbook, sides minus 109. So if you are anything more than $100 better, you should be utilizing that reduced juice. Let's bring in VR. He knows a little something about line shopping and looking for the best prices. He didn't even shave. Did you even go to bed? Did you stay up all night long watching college basketball?
All night, Kel. Because UFC starts at 10 in the morning. And I send them notes over there for betting stuff. So it's been a long, long couple of days, but I love it. After tomorrow night, we get to chill after tomorrow afternoon.
Very, very good point. We are in the downward stretch here of the weekend. Round of 32 is going to be underway here in a little over an hour or so. So we want to get a look behind the computer screen. Art gave us a look behind the counter. What are you guys seeing in your back ends of some of these accounts? What are you being told to buy on? And if you've got anything early for Sunday as well, I'll gladly take it.
Absolutely. Here's some of the sharp stuff that I got from some guys that I share with, as well as stuff that we bet. 816 under 145 and 144 in McNeese and Purdue. 817 Arkansas +8. That got hit immediately as soon as that line went up yesterday. And that's pretty much split action. The first game I touched on, on McNeese and Purdue, under 45 and 44. Public's going over in that one. So it's a difference of opinion between the sharps and the betting public. That's why you may not see as big of a line move as you usually would. Drop down the Creighton +9.5, 819 Creighton. That's getting a ton of money from the public and the wise guys as well. So the books are on an island in that matchup for sure. 821 under 133 all the way to 132 UCLA Tennessee, but the public's going over. So that's two totals where the sharps and the public are opposite. Sharps went under in Purdue, sharps went under in Tennessee, but the public's betting those two games over. Unlike in round one, where they were betting a lot of dogs and a lot of unders, it's a little bit different as the tournament progresses. They tend to go back towards their biases, which are favorites and over. Speaking of another over, 827, over 153.5, 154 BYU and Wisconsin. We bet that. The public's on it heavy. It's another game where the books will be on an island, so that line probably will move significantly. And 830 Texas A&M. I know Art likes that play. We bet Texas A&M as well. Split action from the betting public on that one so far. And NIT action over 150 Chattanooga. That one's also getting bet over by the public. Now, a couple games that stick out immediately. Early action. I know that Art said they need McNeese State, that they got a lot of Purdue money. I'm seeing in the credit shops a little bit opposite that. I'm seeing more McNeese action. And, it's one of those darlings right now that I think the public's kind of fallen in love with a little bit. So I'm not surprised to see a lot of the credit shops getting hit on the dog there, at least with the books that I have access to. They're taking McNeese State. Another one that they're jumping on immediately is Creighton. I touched on that. I'm repeating it again because it's sticking out so much. I'm talking 7 out of 10 bets, and ticket count is even higher than that. So looks like there may be a little bit sharp action opposite that to negate some of that ticket count. Another one that pops out immediately is the Zags, Gonzaga against Houston. Public likes the Gonzaga side. At least that's what I'm seeing early on. And Drake's a sexy team that they're in love with. They got the money for them against Missouri. That was one of the most heaviest bet games. In fact, I was listening to another station on the radio talking about how Westgate, that was one of the biggest hits they took, was on Drake against Missouri. Because even though there was some sharp money early on Missouri, it was so overwhelming on the public money that was coming on in Drake. Wisconsin, BYU, pretty much two-way action. Like I said, Michigan and Texas A&M, pretty much two-way action. So pretty much that's what's going on so far early. Looking at tomorrow, the only thing that sticks out is Duke. No surprise. They won by 80 points, more or less. They named the score. They got bet immediately. Public. I didn't see any of the sharp groups that I work with or share with that took the Duke side, but the public bet Duke right away. They bet Alabama against St. Mary's. This is public money I'm talking about. Alabama versus St. Mary's, because what they're doing is they did it with the Thursday games into Friday. They did it with Friday into today, where they're tying up parlays from today with tomorrow. So if they like a game today and they already have something isolated for tomorrow, they're locking it in by parlaying it and hoping to have more or less more action and a free bet tomorrow. So they're taking Duke, they're taking Alabama already, and the only dog that jumps out is Mississippi. They like Mississippi getting that 5.5 against Iowa State. So far, those are what sticks out the most. The rest is pretty balanced. Oregon, Arizona, pretty good two-way action so far. Maryland, Colorado State, a little heavier Maryland. That's not surprising. They're the favorite. They should get the money early. So pretty much that's what's going on. I agree with Art as far as that public side with being on Creighton, being on the over in the BYU, being on the over in that Michigan game as well. And again, Texas A&M, Michigan, that's pretty split where I'm looking at. But he said he's got Michigan action. So Texas A&M may be a side.
I think I like Texas A&M as well. I have not got to the window with them yet. Actually, VR, I found I had a 30% profit boost. I'm not really that type of person usually, but I have a couple of, we'll call them, never mind. You know what I'm alluding to, but I have the Hard Rock here in Florida, and the Hard Rock, I only pretty much use them for my parlays because they take them during college football. I bet some futures bets there if it's advantageous, but because I have a couple shops minus 108, minus 105, they're going to get more of my action. So I did just log in just to see, and I was like, I think I'm going to put a little parlay together today. So you guys get it here first. BYU, yes, it's minus 105. No, that's not as much fun as you guys want to hear. But I did also use McNeese State plus 210 and UCLA plus 180. And it was almost extra $500 of profit. So it pays almost 22 to 1 for today, just to give me a little bit more fun action.
I put in 2 parlays yesterday, Kel. I put one that would have paid like 18 dimes. I hit the first 5 sides on it. And then another one that I had a 6-teamer, hit the first 5 sides, those same 5 that were on the long shot one. And I hedged the late game. So I was like, I'm locked. There's no way 120. I just put 125, 125 on each, small little bets. But I'm like, there's no way with $6,000 on the table, I'm not going to lock in 2,000-3,000 on it for $125. Listen, I live in the real world. I get it. You don't want to give up equity when you got the books by the balls. That's on paper. You know what I mean? Good in practice, good in theory, bad in practice type thing. But when you live in the real world where you have bills and money actually matters, dude, if you could pick up 3 dimes off a $100 bet, why would you risk that on an NCAA tournament game where you're seeing the craziest things happen? There's so much randomness in one game. I don't care how much equity I have, unless I'm so in love with that side, there's no way I'm not going to lock in a profit. No one ever went broke taking a profit. Nobody, I don't know a single person that went broke taking a profit. I've seen a lot of people that went broke taking a gamble. So I'll stick with the guys that made money.
Really quickly, I want to touch on that. We have Ralph coming up as well as Bill Krackenberger, but we've got 30 minutes. Art was really fast. VR was really fast this morning. So on that note, I want to talk about locking in a profit, and then we'll get to that NIT game. I argue a lot that the cash out button is a scam, right? And that's because they are not offering your true odds. Can you just kind of break that down just a little bit? When you say you locked in a profit, you didn't hit the cash out button.
Never.
On your
touched
book.
that. I hit it by accident before, Kel. I hit it by accident before. I swear to you. And thank God my girl was there. So I was like, what? And she's like, wait, you didn't confirm it. And she jumped over and like clicked whatever, made a couple clicks. And I was like, I just wanted to see what it did. I swear to you. And I was like, I thought it was confirmed immediately, but I think you got to click it and then you got to confirm it and stuff. And I didn't confirm it yet, but it started like counting down. And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? It's the worst possible bet you can make. It's not like surrender in blackjack where you already know the odds. And if you're a card counter, it's one of the best tools you can have where you surrender half your bet, knowing that you're at such a disadvantage. When it comes to the cash out button, both positive and negative, where you could take a smaller loss because your team's behind at halftime and you have a $500 bet and they're willing to let you out for minus 200, minus 300. And it looks like I could save some money. They're never doing you a favor. It's like buying points. They're onto it. Back in the day, before, all the math was laid out and all the quants started working for the books and they started realizing what every half a point was worth, you could take advantage of those situations because you knew a half point should be worth 11 cents here, 12 cents there. I'm only having to pay 10 cents. I mean, when I came out here in Vegas, you could buy on and off the 3 for 10 cents in the NFL. Eventually that gets wiped out. Now, if you're even buying points every single time, I rarely ever see where you're getting something fair. And not even at break even, let alone getting positive EV because you should be laying, 12 and you only got to lay 10 cents. And the cash out button is even worse than that. Like it's a mathematical algorithm designed to make the books a greater hold. That's all it is. Like it's nothing that they're deciding themselves. It's an algorithm that was created to increase the hold of the sports book and hurt the player. You never want to do that. I get it. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to lose this game anyway. Let me lose half. Or sometimes you're like, what if it could come back and beat me? So let me lock in some profit. That's not locking in some profit. That's taking the worst of it. And that's what they're offering you. It's completely different than a hedge. It's completely different than trying to middle. When you have 5 games in on a parlay or anything like that, and you got one team left, and it's not one you're totally in love with that you would straight bet for 10x. So I highly urge you, like I always tell my subscribers, never ever buy a half a point unless you know what it's worth. Like I put it in there with them. I'll type in where for the analysis, and I'll say buy the half point up to minus 122. Otherwise, lay the 110 at that number. Because this price, we should be like it should be more than 10 cents, but it shouldn't be more than 12 cents. Or it should be just lay up to minus 120. But I let them know exactly what the half point is worth. And if their book is charging them more, don't take it. Don't take it because you have a worse bet than I do already. So take the better number, which is actually looks like the worst number, but you're getting better VIG. People overlook the VIG so much, Kel. That's why they're laying minus 115s. I see it all day. See so many guys laying 112s, 113s, 115s, not realizing that all that does is increase the percentage that you have to win. Like I try to get minus 105 shops if I could get it. I'm begging to get reduced juice because I know now my win percentage doesn't have to be as high for me to be profitable. You got to remember, even at minus 110, they expect to make $4.50 off of you out of every 100 you bet. If you could cut that down to minus 105, they're only going to make $2 plus off of every 100. That cuts it in half of what your VIG is. That's so huge over multiple bets. If you're placing one bet and never betting again, it doesn't matter. Just like closing line value is not going to help you if you're only placing one bet. All that matters is picking the winner. But if you're going to bet today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, that adds up so much. And then you're laying minus 112s, minus 113s, minus 115s, like I see bettors doing just to get action down, especially in 2025, where you could open accounts in so many places, spread out your money, shop a little bit. Again, those are tactics of the sports books to take advantage of bettors that just haven't learned that they're making it harder on themselves. Stay away from the cash out button. Stay away from buying points. You're never getting the best of it. Rarely with the half point once in a while, you'll find a book that, it just hasn't adjusted it on 5 and it may mean 11 cents instead of 10. But on the cash out, I've never seen where you're even getting anything close to fair. I'd rather lose my entire bet than know that I just got out of it at a worse odds than you could imagine. Stay away from cash outs. Stay away from buying points. Uphill battles that you don't want to face.
He is the great gambler. I call him VR. It's short for Vegas runner. At least that's what we used to call him back in the day. A lot of people call him Ace. All right, Third Kingdom Psychedelica wants to know your thoughts on the NIT game that starts here pretty quickly, less than an hour. Dayton, Chattanooga. I know you mentioned that they were betting the over in this one.
Yeah, I like they're betting the over. The public's bet that one over as well. That's why the line's just so high. Even if it wins, it's just not a good bet. You know what I mean? Anytime you look and you see opener minus 148.5, you see 49.5, 50.5, 51.5, 52.5, 53.5. What were you doing? Like, what were you waiting for? If you like the over, what were you waiting for? So now you're taking it at the very worst price. It's so comparable to the stock market. If you like something, you don't want to be buying at the top. You don't want to be selling at the bottom. That's who loses the most amount of money. And in sports betting, it's the same exact thing. If you're always taking the worst number, the closing number, you're not going to beat them. It's a mathematical certainty. You're not going to beat them because you're not getting out ahead of the market. So even if they score 200 points in this game, it's a terrible bet. And I get it. Again, I'll repeat it. I'll sound like a broken record. But if you're only placing one bet, then and you love the over, bet the over. The closing line value, all that doesn't matter. It's just picking the winner if you think they're going to go over. But if you're betting, again, over and over and over again, that's a mathematical certainty to go broke. That type of bettor that's willing to take 3, 4, 5 points worse. So leave that one alone. I like the Chattanooga side. I think Dayton's a little bit overvalued. I actually thought this game should be a pick 'em at worst. I was expecting to see Chattanooga go to -1. That's actually a bet that I'm looking to place right now. I'm just hoping to be able to get 3 on that. I missed the opener of 3, but I'm seeing some 2.5s. And I know it goes off in about 7 minutes. I maybe take the 2.5. I may take it just for a smaller bet, not something I'm going to release to subscribers. At 3, I would release to subscribers. At 2.5, I will not. But I do like Chattanooga. I'll probably put a small bet on Chattanooga, sprinkle the money line as well for a little bit. Since I'm not getting the 3, I could balance out a little bit of that, not missing that number by taking them on the money line as well. So I like Chattanooga. I don't like the total at all. If anything, I'd look for 155 and go under it and hope that the market wasn't that far off when they opened it at 148, 48.5.
All right, VR, give yourself a little self-promotion. I know there's a big UFC card going on as well. Any steam rooms this weekend?
I had it yesterday. Because we're doing the first blackjack court class was last Tuesday. Those guys were awesome. I had a room of like 30 people. They are amazing. When they're done that course, they will be favored against the casino. They will be able to walk into any casino that's dealing a fair game. And I showed them what a fair game is, what the rules they should be looking for. And they will be the favorite. Doesn't mean they're going to win every time, but it means they are the favorite. Just like the house. They have players that come in and hit a roulette number, hit a slot machine. They don't win every bet, but they take enough of them. The casinos are guaranteed to make money. They become the mathematical certainty. And that's what's happening with the guys that are taking the blackjack course because they signed up for the year. Next class comes Tuesday, this coming week. And just came off a 5% winner. I only had 2 5%, Kel, the entire college basketball season. I gave a third one out on Missouri that lost. And yesterday I had another one on Mississippi that I almost didn't put it out. Because, in this business, you come off a 5% loser. You're not going to sell it. It doesn't matter. Nobody the next day is going to buy it. But I said I'd be doing a disservice to my subscribers if I don't release it the way I'm betting it. And I'm betting it like it's a 5%. So I'm going to take the risk of looking like the ass that loses 5% in back-to-back days because I'm betting it like it's a 5%. I'm doing the right thing. And I was rewarded for doing the right thing as Mississippi came out and did damage. And we had a great day. So package will be up within the next 30 minutes because I do love a college basketball game today. And of course, MMA is already up there with a couple plays, including the 4% that almost was a 5, but the line got out a little ahead of me. So I said, do the right thing. If you got the opener, it's a 5. Where it sits now, it's a 4. So release it as a 4, but I expect another good day. So excited. March Madness is here. Great time of year to jump on board. Up for the year. As I said, coming off only the second losing year, what did you think was going to happen? By the time December 31st rolls around, we will have done our job and produced profit for the subscribers.
All right, he is VR. WT.buzz/VR. I got my glasses on from Bet on It because we're going to bring in Ralph Michaels for some TNA. Round of 32 TNA, in fact. Ralph's been waiting in the wings to bring you guys all of the data that you could possibly want. Welcome in, Ralph. I'm excited. You sent me the chart last night, and I immediately sent it to my buddy who liked Auburn, and I said, oh boy, are you going to love this? And he goes, I can't read that. Anyway, so Clint Farrar and I had to break it down for him. He's not good with graphs, charts, or any of the English written language.
Well, Kel, you and I did a TNA segment last week about round 1. And what was the number one thing we started with? We said the last 5 years, round 1 March Madness games have gone under 6.
to Wager Talk's last call. I got my glasses on because we were in the middle of a TNA segment and got booted. I have no idea why I can't do the show without technical difficulties. It's just like part of the show now. We're going to laugh it off. We're going to have some coffee in our Coco in Vegas mug and listen to Ralph's TNA. He's got a wonderful chart. I just made fun of my good friend Joey Cheese for not being able to read said chart, and somehow we lost it. Ruined the joke, ruined the chart. Ralph, let's go through some of these situations for the round of 32. And then, of course, guys, we'll get your questions answered in the chat. So if you have a question regarding the slate today, Ralph is here at your disposal. We're going to take this for about another 15 minutes up until the NIT tips off.
Kelly, let me start by saying this. You and I did some TNA videos for March Madness last week. And we started in saying the number one most important thing to remember is this. Round one March Madness games, the last 5 years, have gone under more than 60% of the time. So if you blindly bet every under in round one, you have cashed 60%. Kelly, Thursday and Friday this week, those unders went 22-10. So write this down, guys. Next year, when Kelly and I do our March Madness round one video, we're going to be saying that the last 6 years, about 62% of round one games have gone under the total. Well, what's round two? Now, again, I'm not telling you to bet the favorites or bet the overs or unders based on what the results are, but it is important to know. Remember, there's a big transition. Having 4 days off to prep for a team is one thing. You can learn how to stop defenses. You've got to remember, too, these mid-majors are playing in huge NBA arenas, different sight lines. All of that leads to those unders in round one. So what happens in round two? Well, I went back to 2018, and actually, the over has hit 53.8% of the time. It makes sense. Second game in the arena, you're going to shoot better. You're more familiar with those circumstances. In round two, the favorites have gone 43, 36, and 1 against the spread. That's 54.4%. Now, that's a decent number for the favorites. It's on the plus side, but there was a clear divide on big favorites and small favorites I want to share with you. Favorites of more than 7 are only 36% against the spread since 2018, but small favorites, less than 7, have cashed 63%. So favorites profitable overall, small favorites up to -7, 63%. Big favorites of 7 or more have been 36%. How about teams off a win as a dog? That's pretty indifferent. But if you are off a win as a dog and you are getting 5 or more points in that upset win, you have gone 12-20, 37.5% against the spread. That goes all the way back to 2013. How about if both teams went over in round one? It doesn't happen often because, again, 60% of every round one games have gone under. But if both teams have gone over in round one, they are actually 63.6% against the spread over under in round two. And finally, how about round two teams that won their first game as a favorite, but they failed to cover against the spread? We often see that you rest players in round one. You're a big seed. You can empty the bench. You can get some guys some minutes. So those round two teams that won the game one but failed to cover have gone 62.5%. Just FYI, those teams, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas Tech today. And lastly, round two low totals of 127 or less have gone 8-24 over under. That's 75% to the under. So think about it. We talked about round two games going over 54%. If we took out those very low totals of 127 or less, that's going to make that number closer to 57% on the overs since 2018, round two of March Madness.
So, Ralph, a couple other trends and stuff that I saw over, on X. And again, they're not always validated. They're just what somebody says, right? Obviously, we know the Big Ten is undefeated against the spread in round one. We know that the Big 12 has performed really well outside of the University of Kansas, and the SEC has floundered. Do you have any opinions on maybe looking to fade certain conferences or bet on certain conferences? Do we keep riding the hot hand of the Big Ten, or are we too late to the party?
Yeah, I think maybe round one you do. You could say that the SEC beat each other up. I think there was some SEC bias because they were so good. Kelly, do you remember a couple years ago? The Pac-12 went like 2-12, and then the next year there was only like 3 teams in, and everyone thought they're going to get crushed. And what do Oregon and a couple teams go to the Big Eats, the Final Eight? So preconceived notions about conferences, I don't worry about them. If a conference is overrated or underrated, I think your true value only lies in round one. I think that value's passed.
Okay. Yeah. Cause yesterday I was like, okay, I'm going to bet Colorado State. I am nauseous hitting that continue button before typing in my password because the Mountain West had done so horribly to start, and they ended up getting it done late for me. But I do have some concerns. I know Art Caesar gave out A&M as his best bet today, and I'm thinking, God, I just don't really think the SEC as a whole is that good. Now, again, I'm holding a Florida ticket in pocket, but I also have 2 Big 12 teams for futures bets as well. Okay, let's get into some of these questions here. Let's go like 10 more minutes. If you guys keep asking questions, we'll stay on. If you guys stop asking questions, I'm getting out of here. I know we lost a lot of people in that technical difficulty, but if you guys have a game you want to talk about, drop it. All right, do you think Auburn covers? Here's a perfect example of another one, Ralph. So the top seeds went 2-2. Obviously, they all 4 won, but 2-2 against the spread. Auburn and Florida did not cover. Duke and Houston did. Is this a buy low spot, if you will, on the Auburn Tigers, who, I mean, albeit they looked in round one. They didn't look like the dominant SEC 1 seed that I thought they should.
Well, you look at the way Auburn finished the season, Kel. They actually lost their last 2 regular season games against Texas A&M and Alabama. They get by Mississippi by 5, and then they lose to Tennessee. So you are talking about a brutal stretch. When you are talking about the SEC, teams in round one were basically just worn out. Can you imagine facing every SEC team they faced was a top 47 team for their last 12 games up until Alabama State? So those are the situations I look for. I do like riding teams. And I've gone back and looked at some of those number 1 teams. A couple number 1 teams have run the table and go 6-0 ATS, but more of those have gone 5-1 ATS, losing that first game. In this case, I did not get to the window on either team here. I lean Alabama, and when you look at Creighton, you have to remember this. Creighton is a massive 3-point shooting team. They're number 11 in percentage of 3-point shots, but they're not very good. They're number 159. And while they beat Louisville and shot 42% from 3-pointer, we have to remember that Auburn is an elite 3-point defense, allowing only 29%, which is number 5 in the country. Lean for me on the favorite.
Really quickly, because I got a little discombobulated between Art and VR, I wanted to let you guys know if you are in the survivor pools and you're already knocked out like I am, Splash has a revival starting in about 30 minutes. Right now, you guys can join. It's over there on my X page, just pinned to the top. There is about a $40,000 overlay currently, $100,000 guaranteed. So if you guys like overlays, if you're looking to enter, it's $50. I just got 2 entries. And so that leads me to Alex. Who's your favorite team in a survivor pool for today or tomorrow? Ralph, I went a little risky. So I have 3 left in the $1 million guarantee. I have 2 in this one. And of course I have 0 in Kelly and Murray because I picked Kansas and Mizzou like an idiot, and 1 Clemson. Either way. That being said, today I have a couple of different entries and I want to hear your opinion. So I did 1 risky. I did BYU. BYU is my favorite bet today. And I took the 1.5 yesterday. I said, all right, I love this BYU team. I think Wisconsin's a little overvalued, of course, because the Big Ten just keeps on covering. So I used 1 BYU today in a, let's just say to kind of press, right? Because when you have all of these big favorites, it's easy to take an Auburn or a Purdue or, one of those teams that's like at least over a 5-point favorite. But to win these things long term, I think you have to have a little bit of, cojones, if you will. So your thoughts on who is not losing today that is a good survivor pick. I did also go Texas Tech in one. I saved St. John's, but but I was also debating on maybe using A&M in another one.
Well, Kel, the important thing to remember is this. If you run out of teams, you cannot win. So to me, the most important thing, if you're going to sign up today, is to say, of these teams in round 2, who do I think will get to the Final Four? Because if you have all 4 Final Four teams left, you're going to, you've got a great shot to win. So when I look and I say, of the teams playing today, I think Auburn can advance. I like the Texas Tech team and I like the St. John's team. I would look to not use those, but I'm not a big Purdue fan. You look at the current form of McNeese State, I really like them. So I would go, and I also like Gonzaga today against Houston, so I'm not going to use Houston. So to me, unfortunately, Kelly, with the card today, I would likely be using St. John's as mine. Now, again, you're going to have to dig into it, and it depends on who you used yesterday for that round. But again, to me, most important thing on a Survivor, pick the 4 teams that you love for the Final Four and try to find undervalue in those other teams to make sure you can survive the Survivor pool. Nothing would be worse than having winning teams and running out a team that's actually left playing.
Yep, there was, I think, like 36 last year, and John Murray ran out of teams. And he's like, are you kidding me? It's what happens, unfortunately. So there was, I think out of the 36, only 14 even had eligible teams in order to be able to win it. But again, if you guys are looking for a Survivor League that starts in less than an hour, probably 30 minutes even, right now on my X page, my link is pinned. I got 2 entries. I used BYU and Texas Tech in that one today. Jesse Allen wants to know your thoughts on Arkansas St. John's. I feel like Coach Cal has his team ready to play and they cover and possibly pull off the win. Here's my thought on St. John's, Ralph. I played this team. I played a small amount yesterday. I laid 6.5 early. I said, I'm going to put 1 unit on them now. I like them in this spot. But the real money is going to come in at halftime. St. John's has been the most prolific second half team I have ever seen. I saw them in person back in December. And since that moment, I'm like, there is something Rick Pitino says at halftime. I don't know what on earth it is, but these guys get fired up. The other night, did the same thing. I was one-eyeing it. I was falling asleep at like 10:30. Like, somebody please call me and wake me up when it's halftime, because I don't care what the number is. And guess what? St. John's ends up just absolutely obliterating them in the second half. Talk to me about Arkansas St. John's here, because I kind of am almost having regrets betting them pre-tip, knowing that my biggest bet is going to be at second half.
Well, Kelly, I'm looking right now. Second half. Yeah, well, you look for, talking about full game this year. St. John's is 23-11 in their action. First half, they're 17-18. That shows you just how well they play in the second half. Now, while I like Calipari, I was never a huge Pitino fan, but I tell you what, I give him an A+ job coaching. And why? Well, you've got to know your strength of your teams. And they are a horrific 3-point shooting team. They're number 329. So what do they do on offense? They just don't take threes. They're number 342 in number of 3-point shots taken. So when a coach knows his team has a weakness in something and he doesn't force the action, I had some team I was talking about a couple days ago on a radio show. They were top 15 in percentage of threes, and they were in the last 100 in 3-point percentage shots. That's not using your team properly. When you have an elite defense like this, it's a situation I like. And also, with having the number 1 defense, they're currently number 1 on Ken Palm's ratings. St. John's has won 22 straight games as a favorite of -3 or more. Now, this line is a little higher, but at least that shows you they do not get beat. On the season, by the way, they're 27-1 straight up as a favorite of 3 or more. And when I look at the Hogs are only 2-8 against top 45 defenses. And when they played a top 10 defense, their offense has really been taken out of sync. Listen to what they've done against this is an Arkansas team that plays fast-paced. They scored 52, 62, and 63 points against top 10 defenses. I lean St. John's. I like the under a little bit more.
Here's one that I wanted to touch on. My good friend Pam Maldonado just sent this. Drake 8-0 outright as an underdog this season. Everybody has Texas Tech. For the Survivor. Now I'm a little nervous about playing again, because I bet against Drake the other night with Mizzou. I said Mizzou is by far the better offense. Drake hasn't played anybody. They're the dog with fleas. And Mizzou just was absolutely flat. Let's talk about Drake, Texas Tech here, Ralph, because I've still got a little bit of time to change my Survivor pick, and now I'm actually thinking I might do so.
Well, I don't know. Drake's in a position where, they're off the upset win. That's a negative. Remember, they were as a dog. When I look at Drake, Drake doesn't shoot many threes. They're good at it. But, against that Missouri, they were 5 at 10. Drake actually should have won by more. I do want to point this out. Drake was only 12 of 24 from free throws. Now, Drake is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, but to miss 12 free throws and still beat Missouri by 10, while Missouri was 23 of 26 free throws. I don't know if I've ever seen a game where one team has 12 made free throws shooting 50%, the other team has 23 made free throws shooting 88%, and they still win. So that says that's a positive for Drake. But when I look at Drake now, playing this second game, Drake is a team that has obviously several talented players, but they don't use their bench, folks. They're number 316 in bench minutes. And when I look at Texas Tech, while they're a team heavy in bench minutes as well, they're not nearly as high. One of the most experienced teams in the NCAA this year, number 40. Their bench minutes are on the 223 range. They shoot three-pointers well. They shoot a lot of them. I think the number is right. I do lean the favorite in here. Slight lean, though. I like them to win the game. Not going to get to the window on either time with the ATS number.
All right, 12 more minutes here to answer some questions. Ralph, we already kind of touched on this, but Russell wants to know Purdue versus McNeese. I did bet McNeese on the money line. I had a 30% profit boost there at Hard Rock, and I thought, you know what? Let me throw something together. The dogs have not been barking at all. I mean, outside of Drake and Arkansas and McNeese, the last round, there was no double-digit upsets. There was nothing really crazy. Some of the big numbers, like Florida and Auburn, were two that didn't cover, but never really in doubt of ever losing. There really hasn't been that much madness. Do you think that maybe starts today?
I don't know. McNeese is a great story. And listen, I mean, what Will Wade has done there. And, if you think of, why is he having success? Yeah, that is the same Will Wade that was at, VCU for 2 years and LSU for 5 years. So you have a quality coach taking a team over that, is 28-6 this year. They were 30-4 his last year, and that's when he took over. Remember, before he took over here, McNeese was 11-23 3 years ago. So to take a team that had 11 wins, get him to 30 wins, and now get him to 28-6, that's not the mid-major you're accustomed to. This is a quality team with quality recruits and a Division I head coach that knows how to win. So to me, that's a positive. You look at Purdue, and Matt Painter, what they've done down the stretch. Have they had an impressive win since, maybe Michigan, January 24th. Losses to Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. Their only win against a top 40 Ken Pom team since January 24th is against UCLA, who was number 19 at the time, and they only won that game by 10. There is no way I am betting Purdue in any situation with Matt Painter as the head coach in an NCAA tournament game. And when you look at the analytical metrics, the last 3 weeks, and I'll just give Bart Torvik's site a shout out. A lot of people, we talk Ken Pom a lot, but Bart Torvik for me is the best site because you can adjust dates, you can adjust sites. And when I take the metrics for the last 3 weeks, McNeese State has actually played as the 33rd best team. Purdue is number 37. The offense is 45. The defense is 48. Purdue's offense has been great at number 12, but Purdue's defense over the last 3 weeks, number 154. Plus, Purdue's going to play very slow. I'm not going to lay 6 or 6.5 with them when they're in no hurry to bring the ball up. I'm with you on McNeese State today. Outright upset wouldn't shock me.
I will take an outright upset just for fun, just to kind of feel something, Ralph. It has been rather boring, if you will. I know it sounds kind of crazy that March Madness has been kind of boring, probably because I'm also, let's see, I'm 3-3 in my March Madness bets. Nothing exciting. Ralph, anything exciting to leave our audience with? I know the NIT game is going to tip off here shortly. Anything you've got over at WagerTalk that you would like to share?
Yeah, I have my NCAA and package up. A 7-5 start, so 58% in March Madness for me. Couple bad beats, as you said, and I am going to pound myself in the head, Kelly. We talked about unders. I used 3 unders in March Madness year and went 1-2. I'm watching that Clemson game going, how the hell did that game go over the total after Clemson scored, 15 points in the first half? So looking forward to a great package. There's a lot of great packages at WagerTalk. And remember, expiring this Tuesday, you can get the rest of March for free by buying April. $299 gets you the rest of March for free, in addition to all of April. That is not only me, but any of your favorite handicappers at WagerTalk.com.
Love it. I've got McNeese State money line, BYU money line, and UCLA money line in a little fun parlay. Also, guys, if you got knocked out of your Survivor pool, Splash Sports on my page, pinned to the top, is one with a pretty nice overlay. Still almost $40,000 with about 40 minutes to go. That one's ticking really quickly. Thank you to Ralph at Cal Sports LV. Thank you to VR at Greek_Gambler. And thank you to Art DeCesar from the Westgate Superbook at Art Dice 21. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place on the WagerTalk YouTube channel.